I remain your regular biology teacher, Mr. Daniel Ikweme. Today we want to continue from where we stopped. Remember in our last class, we considered pests of crops. Today we want to look at causes of diseases. What are the causes of diseases in agriculture? The causes of diseases can be categorized into 5 different groups. The first one are viruses. Viruses can cause disease. Bacteria can do same. Fungi can equally cause diseases. Nematodes and nutrient deficiency. When there are no nutrients in the soil, it will make the plant look unhealthy, and that will look as if it is a diseased plant. So all these, as you know, are microorganisms. Nematodes, for example, live mostly in the soil. Now, I have given you a little chart. This chart contains name of disease, the causative organism, the method of transmission, the symptoms, and how it can be controlled. Now, let's look at the first disease on the board. Maize. Maize is a grain we all know, but this maize, when it is diseased, it cannot produce the way it should be. So the first disease we want to consider that affects maize is called maize smut. Maize smut is a disease that is caused by virus. So viruses causes maize smut, and how is it transmitted? This particular disease is transmitted through airborne. That is to say that the disease is on the air. As it is on the air, during respiration, this plant can easily absorb it, and when the plant absorbs it, what do you tend to notice? That this plant is suffering from this. You see that the yield will be reduced. It will not do well again. Maybe the crop will be very small, or the plant as a whole will be malnourished. It will not look well to produce good yield. So how can you control that? What you do is completely destroy the plant that is affected. So don't forget that maize smut is caused by a fungi. Let's go to the next one, rosette disease of groundnuts. Rosette disease is caused by viruses. So this virus enters the plant when an insect feeds on that plant. Like the groundnut in particular, when this piercing and sucking insect, example the aphids, feeds on this groundnut, it creates holes. So when holes are created in the groundnut, it makes this virus enter into them, and they begin to cause what we call the rosette. So that is how rosette disease are transmitted. And what are the symptoms? How do you know that this particular groundnut plant is suffering from rosette? 1, the leaf will turn yellow with mosaic mothing. The leaf will turn yellow, and you see some white patches of insect-like structure perching on them. So when you see that, you should know that that groundnut is suffering from rosette disease and is caused by a virus. Another thing you observe is that the plant will be stunted. The plant will not grow to the normal size the groundnut plant should grow. It will be stunted. The leaves will be coiled. So you see a stunted and coiled leaf. When that happens, you should know that those are the symptoms of virus. And the particular virus you are looking at is the rosette disease of groundnut. Now, how can it be controlled? Early planting. When you plant your groundnut early enough, then you can harvest them before this virus begins to set in. Another major way of controlling rosette virus is crop rotation. Crop rotation will help you. What we understand by crop rotation? When you plant in this farmland, in the next season, you change and plant in another farmland. When you do that, you'll be able to control the infestation of that virus. Another very good point is the use of insecticides. What are insecticides? They are chemicals that are used to control insects. So when you control these aphids, they will not create room for the virus to begin to infect. Let's look at the next one. The next one is leaf blight of cassava. Leaf blight is commonly caused by bacteria. So I have given you an example of plants destroyed by fungi, virus, and now we are looking at bacteria. Bacteria can cause cassava leaf to become infected. How does that happen? By when you cut an infected stem, this virus will go and infest it. Before the stem even begins to germinate, it has been infected. Then it will cause a rain splashing in the sense that when rain touches it, it will look as if it's touching on a cloth. The plant will look wet and withered. And another thing is that when insects eat the cassava leaf, it will create room for this bacteria to cause an infection. How can we know that it is caused by this particular bacteria? The brightening of the leaves become very bright. It will not be greenish again. The greenishness will be very, very conspicuous. It will cause falling off of the leaf. The leaf will just fall and break off on its own, and it will result to a reduced yield. How can it be controlled? By using disease-resistant varieties. There are some resistant varieties that when you plant them, they cannot easily be infected by bacteria. Another good way is early planting. When you plant on time, you are bound to overcome most of these diseases. And the last one is practicing of crop rotation. Crop rotation, as I told you before, let me explain a little. Let's say, for instance, you have plot A, B, and C. Now, in the first year, you plant cowpea, beans in A, you plant maize in B, and maybe you plant groundnuts in C. Then after that year, you now rotate it. You bring groundnut this way, cowpea this way, and maize this way. So what you are doing is what we call crop rotation. And when you rotate the farmland like that, you'll be able to control general effect of disease on crop production. Let's take the first one. Diseases reduces the yield and productivity of crops. You agree with me that when plant is diseased, the plant will not be able to do well. The plant will be stunted, and as a result, the product from that plant will be very poor. The second point is that they reduce the quality of crops. Crop quality will be reduced. Let's say, for instance, if you planted cassava, and that cassava was supposed to give you, if you planted cassava, let's assume that cassava is supposed to be as big as this. So you discover that if it is affected, you begin to see some very tiny tubers. Why is it so? Because it has been affected by the disease. The third, they can kill or cause the death of the whole plant. Sometimes it may not affect only the produce, it can affect the whole plant, and the plant dies off. And you can imagine a farmer buying so much seedlings and ended up losing all. Another very important point is that they reduce farmers' income. When this happens, when the crops are diseased, when the crops are not doing well, the farmer will lose so much and his income will be reduced. The fifth point is that they increase cost of production through expenses incurred in the cost of controlling them. So when you are spending so much money in buying insecticides, in buying herbicides, in buying other chemicals to control this pest, you spend more, and as a result, what you would have gained as your proceeds will now be used in treating these diseases. The last one is that their activities causes retarded growth. So when plant is affected by disease, it makes them not to grow well. And when they don't grow well, the farmer stands at risk. Now let's look at general control of crop diseases. How can it be controlled generally? One is cultural method. The cultural method involves those things you do that will make your plants disease-free. Example of things you do is crop rotation, which we have explained earlier. If you embark on crop rotation, you will control disease of crops. Another one is planting disease-resistant varieties. When you plant crops that have resistance over diseases, it will help in controlling it. And the other point we should consider is that when you destroy affected ones, you discover that the disease will not spread. All those I've mentioned falls under cultural control. Now let's look at biological control. Biological control here is the introduction of biological enemies to control the agent that causes disease. Take for instance, your farm is infested by insects. And what do you do to control it? You introduce maybe lizards, many into that farmland. When you do that, you see that the lizard will start eating up the termites, eating up the ants. And when they do that, you are controlling those insects that would have caused disease biologically. The last point is chemical control. You can control your farmland by using chemicals like insecticides. Insecticides are chemicals that are used to control insects. You can as well control them by herbicides. Herbicides are chemicals that are used to control herbs, and we equally have other chemicals that when you apply to these plants, they will help in reducing the yield of plants. Now let's look at something else. When you weed your farmland regularly, that will help you. So weed regularly, that will help to control these diseases. Another point which I have repeated time without number is that you should practice crop rotation. When crop rotation is practiced, you will control diseases effectively. The next one is try and remove or burn completely infected plants. When infected plants are removed or burned, it will help to curtail the spread. Plant disease-resistant varieties. Now these are crops that does not easily fall to the pressure of diseases. When you plant them, it will help in segmenting this. Now another good point is that early planting. Don't plant when you should be harvesting. Early planting helps to control disease of plant. And finally, plant seeds that are healthy. Healthy seeds, or we say propagate healthy seeds. When you propagate or you plant healthy seeds, it will really help you to checkmate these diseases. Now, I'll leave you at this. I want you to read up, get some textbooks, read up about diseases of plants, check how it can be controlled, so that in our next class, we'll see if there's any question you ask me. Let us quickly in our next class, we'll go to what we call parasites. What are parasites? Just meet me in the next class, and you know what those things are, and we'll discuss them in details. Have a nice day.